Hit it.
Hello and welcome to another episode of the VR Download, a weekly show recorded live from the Upload Virtual Studios, where we bring you the latest news, reviews, comments, and interviews from the VR industry. My name is Kyle, Operations Manager at Upload.
I'm Tatiana. I'm the Master Dabber.
Master Dabber, awesome.
True
And
dat.
over
True
here
dat.
to the right, second apprentice to
Ian.
Master Dabber.
Ian, hi. Hi.
Hi.
That's all I got.
Hi.
Yeah.
Okay.
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 Excellent. Well, hey, let's get into today's VR news discussion. And it looks like our first news piece of this week is Half-Life Alyx. Who would have thunk? The highest rated PC game so far. Not VR, but
Yeah.
PC game.
Yeah, it's early in the year still, but of course the big question is how many PC games are going to be delayed out of this year because of the virus. So I mean, there could be some big releases that are super delayed, and maybe that stands. I mean, it is only March or April now, but that game came out in March, and it's the best game through March. But they always save up the big releases for that sort of November time frame when they want to appeal to lots and lots of people around Christmas time. And I don't know, it's pretty impressive that it's been able to sort of grab that spot. I always wonder how the numbers are kind of like skewed a little bit by the outlets that don't really report on VR games very much. Like, it's just, this game we rated it 5 out of 5. We thought it was amazing. But there's these other outlets that probably gave it 10 out of 10 and, perfect scores, who don't actually look at a wide range of VR games and just were absolutely blown away by this particular one.
I personally play quite a number of games. Not every game, because not every game is, appealing to me, but I try to at least play everything a little bit. Half-Life Alyx is one of those games where 2, 3, 4 hours into it, I remember taking my headset off and going, wow, this is the game that'll make non-VR believers believe. Like, this is the game.
Yeah.
And I was personally blown away by it. So I can understand, appreciate this, but I think you have a good point. Comments. What kind of comments do we have?
Adam Hartzell and Heaney and Gerald all agree that Medal of Honor VR is their next big title.
Yeah, I mean, that one's the obvious elephant in the room. I
kind of forgot
I've
that it
not
hasn't come out.
Yeah, it's been sort of like in the offing for such a long time, and Medal of Honor, I mean, returning to that kind of universe, it's going to be such a big draw. I know how many people are excited for that. I'm super excited for it, but I know so many people are, and the game could change my mind once I get my hands on it. Yeah, it's gonna. It's
Sure.
a
I mean,
very
David,
exciting
I
game
think,
to a
is
lot
the
of
only
people.
one that really has done anything with it, right?
Yeah, I believe so.
So Kyle, your friend Gerald here says Half-Life Alyx has been good, but is not revolutionary in his opinion.
I've had this conversation, and thanks for being the other side of the debate, Gerald. I appreciate that. One of the things that I use to rate my own personal experience in VR is how quickly I obtain presence. And it's a trite phrase nowadays, but there were numerous times where I completely forgot that I wasn't standing in front of a old dilapidated hotel, or anytime the head crash jumped at me and I'm like shooting my own face. It's like, okay, yeah, I get it. It's there. If you want to say revolutionary, revolutionary isn't a good word. It's just immersive. Again, it's another trite word. It's hard for me to describe it. All I know is that I really, really, really enjoyed it. That's all I can say.
Yeah, so I don't know. We did the separate podcast where we did the review discussion, and there's a spoiler section at the end of that where we talk about spoilers, and I'm sure our comments are a mixture of people who haven't finished the game yet, and half of them I'm sure have. But talking about presence, I mean, I set up my room as large as I possibly could, and there's one critical moment in this game where I had to sort of position myself into the far end of my room and then physically walk across the room to press a button. And it's a very nerve-wracking scene. I don't want to spoil it for people who haven't gotten there yet. But like that moment, you're talking about getting presents immediately, and there's no moment that I can think of except, and Jamie did his interview where they mentioned, I think, budget, where you're really forced to use your space in a creative or interactive way and kind of need to try to maximize some of that space and think of both the real world and the virtual world in order to keep yourself as safe as possible and really, come around a corner and pick your shots. I found myself throughout that game again and again coming up to the barnacles and teleporting close to them and then leaning forward and firing at
Oh yeah.
them,
Uh-huh.
by putting my hand forward. And like that's just it's not revolutionary, but it's incredibly fun and incredibly satisfying to do on a regular basis throughout that entire game.
A
Yeah.
friend of mine sent me like a clip. It was like a 4-minute clip of him doing like a combat scene like on a train, and someone had thrown like an enemy had thrown something at the window, and he had just dropped to the floor. And after I watched the clip, he was like, "That was genuine. Like I genuinely dropped to the floor and ducked because like I got this crap scared out of me." So it definitely did feel very, like you said, present, I guess, in terms of the combat, because of the way that he was hiding behind things and like peeking over things, and like you talked about, like shooting around corners and stuff. It was really interesting to see.
Now, I will do, this is very unusual, but I do want to do a shout out to our friend over at Road to VR, Ben Lang, for a tweet that he did that said, if you're going to play this with the Rift S, use headphones for the best experience. And so I was playing with the Rift S. I put it on for the first time with Half-Life Alyx, and I'm like, I'm going to take Ben up on that, and I'm going to put a pair of headphones on. And I'll tell you, I've played it with and without. He's absolutely right. If you're playing this with a Rift S, if you have a good set of headphones, it would behoove you to use that. I don't know, Ian, what was your experience
Yeah.
audio-wise?
Yeah, I did the Index. I had the off-ear headphones, and those are the amazing ear experience where like you don't feel them on your ears, so you're not reminded that there's something in your ear, which you get when you put earbuds in. It's kind of like a constant reminder. I'm wearing earbuds right now, and there's always that constant reminder that I'm wearing some kind of audio solution rather than just immersed. And obviously the Rift S and the Quest out of the box have the kind of like strap solutions to audio, I think.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not sure where actually are the speakers in the Rift S. I use Quest so much, but
I think they're like right
They're,
like here, because
yeah,
I know if I
nearby,
put my hands
right?
up and like cup like the sides, like I can hear it.
But yeah. So the Index are so wonderful to position them right over your ear, and then you kind of have the audio going through your ears and using your ears as part of the kind of realistic audio solution, and it was just fantastic. And you can still, they're so loud, but you can still sometimes hear people outside VR talking to you when you need to. So
mm-hmm.
it's like the best of both worlds. I love that
Yeah.
solution.
Speaking of that, I was going to say Rebuff Reality is going to launch their VR ears Kickstarter soon, and I know Kyle, you and I have different views on it, but when I used it at CES, like I loved it. I tried it on the Quest with Pistol Whip and the VR power attached, and from time to time while I was playing, Joe, their CEO, would actually take them off to kind of show or unplug them or whatever, like to just show me like the difference, and it was night and day. Like it felt like I was really wearing headphones, and it was very crisp.
I think that my original assessment of that product may not have been fair, because I don't think I actually used it to experience a game like Half-Life Alyx that actually takes full advantage of that. So I think that the VR ears is something that I would definitely want to add to my Rift S experience in the very, very near future.
I love them. Like
Yeah.
I thought they, with the VR power, everything felt very balanced. I didn't
Mm-hmm.
feel like anything was heavy on either side, and the fact that it's supposed to work with multiple VR headsets. I think in the marketing images we saw it with the PSVR as well, which I think is a huge deal, because audio with the PSVR is always, the big clunky PlayStation headphones, or
Yeah,
using your TV speakers. I think the VR ears would just be like an absolute must for anyone that uses PSVR.
absolutely, absolutely.
So on Quest, we keep talking. You did the review of VR Power, and
It did.
I'm using it
I'm wearing it
now.
right
We
now.
talk about
Me
it every
too.
week, right? We're talking about it, but it balances out the headset. But the thing that's really cool about the VR ears is they're powered, and there's a battery life on them, and the VR Power has that secondary output
Yeah, the one
that
on the left, I believe, the 1 amp one. Yeah.
so you can charge your Quest with the VR Power while it's going, and then also charge up the VR ears on the Quest and have the off-ear experience. And then if Oculus does what we think they're going to do and actually ship a wireless version of the Link, boy, that's going to be an amazing combination
Yeah.
of hardware experience where you have a wireless headset that's, it wouldn't be wireless anymore. There would actually be several wires running around your head, but you would be untethered and you could have PCVR connection.
Yeah.
And then you've also got the amazing ear experience from the Index. That's going to be an amazing solution if it all comes together like that.
Gerald actually asks a good question: is how many OG Vive users do you think are playing Half-Life Alyx without audio due to how much of a hassle audio on it is? I don't own Vive,
God,
so
that
I
would be
can't really
miserable.
chime in.
Well, I mean, I have one downstairs. I could probably put it together and see how the performance is and getting it all set up and everything. I mean, I've got several headsets that I would like. I wonder what Half-Life Alyx looks like on like a DK1.
Yikes.
Kidding,
Oh,
obviously. Hey, let's it's a good question, Gerald. I don't know. I might do some testing later, maybe next week, and see what works and what doesn't. That might be a
I
fun
really
video
did
to put
hate
together.
I really did hate pulling out those earbuds for the Vive every time. It was a pain to like because it's got a different kind of strapping experience, and it's heavy, and it's as I recall, it's pretty front heavy. The original
Oh
Vive,
yeah. Oh yeah.
and yeah, getting that, and then also getting the tangle of the earbuds, and then the tangle of the wire, and all of that stuff all at once is a real pain. I do think
My
a fair
Vive
number of people.
has the deluxe audio strap on it, so that kind of cheats. I don't know. We'll see. I'll do some
Yep.
research on that. Let's move on to the next piece of news. Facebook ends Samsung Gear VR software updates, 360 video downloads, and films. If you have it on your device, keep it. Don't delete it because it ain't going to be there no more. That's sad. Rip Gear VR. Ian, I know how
Ian's
much you
smiling.
loved. I know how much you loved the Gear VR.
It's
It
funny,
was his favorite.
like, yeah. I mean, so like I was there. I went. That was kind of the beginning of my journey on trying to make a full-time job out of VR news coverage. Was the Gear VR. So like, if you go back into the history and rewind the reel, 2014 is when Facebook buys Oculus, and by the end of 2014, they've shipped the Innovator edition of their Gear VR. And basically, soon after Facebook bought Oculus, I put in my 2 weeks notice at my job and uh, tried to freelance, write about VR journalism, and write about what that I saw coming, this next generation of computing that I believed was coming. And then I went and bought the Gear VR, the Innovator Edition, late that year. And it was like, going into the store was, they had no idea what I was talking about. They had no idea this thing existed. And I had to like special order it or wait for it to come. Did a review for someone in a newspaper out there, and basically said, yeah, it's really cool, but you're going to have to wait. And that kind of begins this 6-year journey of to now of just, yeah, it's really cool, but you're going to have to wait. And no matter how much they try to improve that Gear VR experience, you're going to have to wait. There's just too many roadblocks for normal people. It's very sad. Yeah.
I have a fun Gear VR story as well. I pre-ordered the Galaxy Note 4. I wanted a black one, and the store called me and said, "Your phone is here, but we goofed and we gave it to somebody else, so you have to go to another location." It was a Best Buy. I know. I ended up with a white one, which I don't care, and because I immediately put a case on it anyway. But it was October 14th, 17th, I forget, of 2014, and I remember saying this is the very first consumer VR device that I've ever owned. An actual I went to a store and bought it, and that was very profound for me. Um, Gear VR has a very near and dear spot in my heart. I remember the first expos after it came out. Every VR dev had a Note 4. Every VR dev had a Note 4. I went to a party once, and there were 16 of them on a table all at one time. It was a big deal, at least in the inner circles of the OG VR community. But yeah, its time has passed. It's been
I
a
remember
retirement home for quite a while, I think.
Oh yeah,
at
I mean,
CES for I don't even know how many years Samsung would always have like that roller coaster simulator thing where like they put everyone like in the
Hmm.
little roller coaster seats with the Gear VRs.
Yep.
I don't know. That is my experience with the VR is watching people, or the Gear VR rather, is watching people use it. I never tried one. Never had
The
an
ge-
interest in the Gear VR
it's
personally.
the Gear VR hasn't died. It was just sent off to live on a farm with other aged VR headsets. So know that it's in a good place out to
Is
pasture.
Google Glass its next door neighbor?
Uh, that's funny. I have a Google Glass sitting in a box somewhere. That's funny. How much do we want to actually talk about Gear VR though, other than its untimely or timely death? I guess.
well, I don't know. We've kind of covered it. I think the thing that always you joked that I hated it, and uh, it's so frustrating. It was the perfect example of this headset where you put it on someone and they want it. They really kind of want out after 5 minutes. Like, you're pushing them to go in there any longer than 5 to 10 minutes. And like I remember various things like putting a physical gamepad controller in an older person's hands, and they just could not have tossed the gamepad back at me faster because they just were like, I can't do games. I really cannot play games, and I can't believe you would put this gamepad in my hand. And like, it's kind of frustrating to be so excited about the future of this technology and have this experience happen over and over and over again when they're given demos. And it's just like, yeah, I wasn't that impressed because when I leaned, I felt really uncomfortable. And
Hmm.
yeah, that gamepad wasn't great and all those things.
Yeah,
Well,
the Gear VR was my first foray into taking VR to a nursing home, and I was just playing 360 videos because I didn't want to have controllers because I kind of anticipated that type of response. So you go up to these elderly folks, and I mean they're just sitting in their wheelchairs or in their comfy lounge chairs, and you see their faces brighten up just by showing them something. So the Gear VR has a special place in my heart for that as well. That was my first sharing experience with somebody that really truly appreciated it. So yeah.
Yeah.
well, Adam Hartzell said that he'll never forget how blown away he was with Fireproof's Omega Agent and Minecraft on Gear VR.
Mm.
And then Gerald also said, it's fascinating that people wanted out, whereas now with the Quest, he has to pull people out, and it really shows like how far we've come.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Absolutely. All right. Well, let's move on to the next big piece of news. HTC announces a $549 headset only Cosmos Elite, complete with free Half-Life Alyx.
It's still $100 cheaper for me to buy a Rift S and buy Half-Life Alyx on Steam.
150, right?
Oh, whoa.
uh, yeah, it's 549. The Rift S is what?
400, yeah. So
400, yeah,
150.
399.
And then
Yeah.
what's kind of insane about it is the index is only $50 cheaper. So if you're willing to wait an extra month for delivery of an index, uh, it's also going to save you some money. Plus, Alex. I mean, I guess you could get Alex with both, but $50 cheaper if you wait a little bit longer for the index experience.
What sell me on this concept? What is the Cosmos Elite claiming to offer for this premium ish price?
The idea that they're pitching is modularity with that system. The idea is that if you do buy that 550, you're on an upgrade path from the original Vive. So in David's review, both of the original Cosmos and the new faceplate solution, it's an upgrade. It is an upgrade from the original Vive. So that's not a bad purchase from that perspective of going from this original 2016 experience to a Cosmos. And then there's this pitch of modularity where you could get this faceplate solution out of the box, use your existing base stations that you've already got probably mounted on your walls,
Mm-hmm.
and have an upgraded experience from what you originally had in 2016 while still using the Vive wands. And then you've got kind of a platform to jump off with, in theory, over the next 6 months to a year into whatever else you want to do. By the end, and combine them with this solution, you could upgrade to the next generation base stations and have a wider tracking area if you wanted to go with that solution. And then I believe in May or something, uh, HTC is planning to ship the alternative faceplate so you can actually convert it to an inside-out solution. So you don't need those base stations. You could take it to a more portable, you could take your computer or have a computer elsewhere and just take your headset, not have to take the base stations down, use the Cosmos controllers. You'd have to buy if you only bought the headset, I think you'd have to buy the Cosmos controllers. I spent yesterday morning on on HTC's website trying to understand how all of their offerings work together, and it gave me a literal headache. I really my head was throbbing after visiting their website, trying to understand the prices, how they compare to Rift S and Index, and why someone would want to do this upgrade path, because Valve really did offer up the Index as the kind of go-to upgrade path for those original Vive owners. And here's Cosmos trying to do the same thing, but a year later than Index? And obviously people are really struggling out there to get their hands on Index right now, since it's back ordered by like 2 months. So that it's understandable why some people would want to pick this path.
Yeah, I see that there is a very specific target audience, and that's where the true value of this lies. If you're already part of the HTC ecosystem and you already have the base, mounted to your walls, as you said, and you already have the wands, the old OG controllers, and you're just looking to upgrade the headset, and you're specifically looking for a modular setup with growth potential, then yes, you fall into that demographic, that target audience that they are targeting for this Cosmos Elite. I mean, I guess, that's the best way that I have been able to justify this at all.
And wireless, that's the thing that I'm finding differentiating a lot of this stuff here. Here we are in 2020. I had a friend with an original Rift, and somehow it was news to him that the Quest existed, and I started explaining the Quest, and their mind just exploded. Wait, there is a wireless one? And they just got very, very excited and immediately bought the 128 gigabyte Quest as soon as it became available. And the last time it didn't sell out.
I have
but like
some breaking news.
Oh, breaking news. What did you
Marvel
break?
Iron Man VR has been delayed again.
Yeah,
It was just announced
see
on
that one coming.
Twitter.
Yeah.
Along with The Last of Us 2, which I saw that kind of coming, but there's no release date yet, but it just got announced. RIP.
Both of them?
Yes, in the same tweet. So David is
pour one
probably
out.
David's gonna cry. Pour one out for Iron Man VR.
I don't feel too good, Mr. Stark.
Oh God, Kyle.
It gives my wife some time to play through the original before the new one comes out, at least. I guess the Iron Man one is a real bummer. We obviously have some reports on uploadvr.com where we talked about the quality assurance testing being a major impact. We got some tips telling us that various things were going on with user testing, and obviously when these user testing groups are dealing with very expensive intellectual properties from very powerful companies, and there's a very serious security concern with sending those products home with users. There's a real drive there to try to get those users to test in the office, and they should be able to accommodate home workers. Everyone is accommodating home workers right now, and workers' health is most important. But are they really going to be able to, at the same capacity, have 40 or 50 testers of a given upcoming game, be able to not leak anything with it all going home with all those people? I don't
Yeah, like
know.
especially when you're I don't know like how a lot of places are working, but I'm sure there's dev kits being sent home, like computer like workstations from home. My roommate works for Activision, and he does support, but they sent him home with his whole computer. They're like, take it, here you go. So it is
I'm
very
sort of worried about
interesting.
this. I wonder what kind of surveillance these testers are going to be put under at home. I
Oh,
mean, are
I'm
you
sure a lot.
required to have a camera showing your entire living room
I
every
don't
time you're
I don't think it's
testing?
to that degree, because all of this stuff is internal, from AAA to indie. Like you're most likely doing it through a VPN, so it's all still, I would assume, the same kind of surveillance as it would be, working in the office.
Hmm.
I don't know.
But
Yeah,
That's sad.
that's just
We're
my
sorry.
opinion. I don't know.
It's a bummer.
who knows? Okay, well, thanks for those that late breaking news. It's good. Let's move on to the next piece. Facebook. I love this. I love this story. This is such a good story. Facebook agrees to buy every AR display from key supplier Apple looked at acquiring. And it says the information Plessy is the actual company's name is Plessy, is one of the few makers of micro LED displays suitable for AR glasses. So basically, Apple looked at these micro LEDs and said these displays and said these are going to be perfect, and then Facebook came in and swiped them all up and said no, they're mine. Ian, what's your take on this?
Interesting. Yeah, I would love to have Heaney in for a talk on this at some point. We really need to get him in the studio for a discussion on this, because he and I have been talking about this, and it's very, very interesting to see the way the giants are responding to the idea that they're going to get broken up or sued or some other, effect on their business because they're so big and so powerful. And politicians on either side of the United States political spectrum sort of saying we need to rein in some of the power here on some of these tech giants. And both Facebook and Apple are of that scale. Amazon is of that scale of just being everywhere and in everything. And what that means is when you've got a situation like building out a new platform, VR being one platform, AR being another platform, and there being a convergence in theory at some point of these platforms, you've got a buildup. And the problem is these companies can't necessarily build up the way they used to. You can't necessarily buy the entire stack because you could get labeled a monopoly, and you could have effects of being labeled a monopoly. And then you've got this, so there's that whole thing. There's the whole idea of getting labeled a monopoly and what could happen with companies being sued or affected by that. The other thing is the strategies employed by these companies. Do we have a comment? Interesting comment?
Yeah, we have a few actually. So Kev Gretz said that he didn't think that Iron Man looked good. I mean, I haven't played it myself, but I know a lot of people are excited. Chris Richardson could see me making it rain, that Facebook money. But James O'Loughlin said that, Apple used to do the same tactic where they bought all of the small hard drives that were in the OG iPods. Like literally nobody could compete.
Oh,
Because
Yeah.
I mean, I don't
I
know if
remember
you
that
guys
was the thing
remember
Tim Cook
the
was famous for.
Zune. Like
this
the
soon.
Zune, like no other MP3 player could like really compare with the iPod. Like if you really go back, I think it's like freshman year of high school when they came out, like the UI and like iTunes and everything was unmatched. And then you went to the competitor, which was the Zune. It was just overly complicated, not as reliable. So yeah,
I have a confession to make. I
you
have
have a
a
Zune,
Zune.
don't you?
I
Oh my
have a
god.
Zune.
Oh God. Oh man.
I liked my Zune. I liked how it, like, when the hard drive whirled up, the whole thing kind of jerked a little bit in my hand. It was great.
I mean, come on. When the Zune came out, everyone looked at that thing and knew it was dead. And you looked at it and said, "No, this is going to succeed."
No, no, I was a Microsoft fanboy for a long time. Okay, I admit it. Was. I admit it. So, and anyway, I just liked everything. I mean, I wasn't an Apple person. Right now, I tend to claim to be platform agnostic. We have Android, we have Apple, we have Microsoft, I have Linux, I have anything you want. I've got it in the house now. So, there's a little love for the Zune in this house.
Chris Richardson has the Master Chief Zune.
Oh,
Oh wow.
collector's
Chris.
item.
Oh man, Lucas did say, and I don't know about this, that the Zune Music subscription was superior to individual purchases. I'm not familiar with.
I will admit
that.
that the interface between the Zune and the software and the, putting music over and videos over to it was, I think, a little bit easier than, I don't know, personal preference, I guess. Yeah.
So
What?
the other thing I want to mention on the Facebook thing is differences of strategy, and I keep coming up against this in the industry, and I hope the competitors for Facebook are out there listening. Facebook does not care about making a profit on hardware, and it is so important that anyone else getting into VR and AR understand that Facebook needs direct connection to consumers. They want to be on people's heads. They want to have that they don't want anything in between them and getting to people's eyeballs and their ears.
Like a head crab.
But yeah, right, like a head crab.
Facebook head
someone
crab.
Photoshop a head crab onto Zuckerberg.
Oh God.
But they don't care about making a profit on the pathway to do that. They are playing a longer game, a different game. And I have had conversations with various people in the industry, and it's news to them that they don't care about making that hardware profit. And I that's the thing that is so threatening to Apple, is their entire business model is about lowering the cost of manufacturing the thing by owning the entire stack of making the thing in order to make a profit on selling the hardware. And they could destroy they could come in here and really hit everyone really hard. I'm convinced that's why Google kind of backed out when they realized, oh no, we can't add a whole new segment to our business that makes a whole lot of profit by getting into this, because Facebook is going to take a loss on all their hardware in order to dominate. And that could hit Apple soon.
Yeah, it's about developing an ecosystem, and Facebook is trying to develop the ecosystem. It's not as important to them right now to make money, because they know that if they can get a couple million people in their headsets, which it's starting to look like it's actually coming to fruition, then they have that ecosystem, which creates a fan base, which creates additional, word of mouth and everything. So it's really important that Facebook does what they can do. Now, the thing that, and here's my point about this whole micro LED stuff, and I just want to throw this out as another perspective. The Apple glasses or eyeglasses or whatever they're going to call it were supposed to come out this year. At one point, there was a report that they were going to. If not this year, then they're next year. Wouldn't you think they'd already have a stock of these micro LEDs if this is what they were going to use?
Yeah, I think it's always been a couple years out.
I mean, the Heaney God is now telling us that it's slated for 2023.
Yeah, I mean
that's too
the
far
latest
away.
report. And that's kind of the thing. That's what I'm getting at. Where if Tim Cook looked at the VR market and says, we're only going to sell realistically a couple million or 5 or 10 million VR headsets between now and 2023. Let's just skip ahead and get to the bigger market, which is AR or whatever. You know, like, let's just focus on the bigger market where we really can add a whole nother pillar to our business, and let's just skip this little toy idea that's, you know, not going to really change our business. And it's a real serious mistake for that reason, because they're going to give this window for Facebook to build this community.
His name is Tim Apple, Ian. You
I
need
was
to
going
get
to
it
make
right.
that joke.
Oh man.
I was going to make that joke, and I refrained. We
Any
do have some comments. Gerald said that the Apple AR headset was always 2023 and says that Facebook is at least earliest 2022. Greg's VR kind of makes a good point and says Apple always waits until a market is ripe with rivals who have already released and failed. They really don't need to be first, second, or third. And I agree with him on that.
Don't need to be first, just need to be best. I get it.
Yeah.
I get it. Yeah.
But
so do you think
the problem is that makes sense? That makes sense. But the problem is, what if Facebook is best and cheapest?
Then great.
I mean, Apple is never going to be the cheapest ever. I don't care what product it is.
Sure, but if they've got this multi-year advantage, 5 to 10 years by the time 2023 is nearly 9 years.
The iPhone, the first iPhone was ahead of its time by a long shot, because I saw a T-Mobile Sidekick when the iPhone came out. That thing was still expensive as hell, and they're getting more and more and more expensive, and people still buy it, because with Apple, you can put whatever stupid price tag you want on it, and your Apple people are still going to buy it. Like, they're never going to be the cheapest ever.
It's just, if you go back,
I will take that to the grave.
Sure, if you go back into the history books, 3 or 4 years before iPhone launched, they bought the company that allowed them to do the touchscreens, that did such great touchscreens, and it took them several years of development work to make that user interface that was so revolutionary on the iPhone. And in theory, I suppose they're trying to do that now, right? They're trying to come up with the best hand tracking and the best gloves, or whatever system that they're going to use for the eventual eyeglasses or whatever it is. Just Facebook is doing that in real time publicly with a community of millions of people and thousands of developers. And I don't know if Apple's tried and true strategies are going to give them everything they need to compete once they get to 2022, 2023.
Well, Gerald also said, maybe Apple can do some magic user experience, but he has a feeling that Facebook already knows what needs to be done, which I agree. And he also says, he's curious if their AR headset will launch with which Facebook, Oculus, or Instagram branding, which is also a very interesting point. Because if you look at, not that the Snapchat glasses, I don't think were super successful, but that does bring the Instagram point into question. Is it going to be
generation
targeted?
3 of those Snapchat glasses?
I have no idea.
Generation 4 or something could be much better.
It's 3, yeah. I don't know. I'm curious to see how this all pans out. It's actually kind of fun to see the evolution of the VR industry and know that directly behind it is the AR industry, and there's going to be a merging of those graphics, of those metrics, that where they both kind of grow together once they get closer to each other. Because I really do feel that by 2023 we should have some sort of hybrid headset. I don't know. I'm ambitious, though. I like to think positively about it. No, okay.
No.
Well, we'll see. We'll check back in a couple years and see.
Well, when you say hybrid headset, you mean one that you can take out into the world and one that's great indoors? Because those are so completely different use cases.
So I have often said that the ultimate headset is, because I am a bespectacled individual. I wear glasses. The first thing I do every day is grab my glasses, then my phone. Well, I want one that I can tap the side, give me AR stuff, tap the side, give me VR stuff, tap the side, have regular glasses, whether it's through pass-through.
I think that's
or
more than 3 years.
See, if that was a thing and I was one of your children, I would just constantly tap your headset.
Yeah, Heaney says 10 years. Let's see. All right, we have it on the record. Yeah. Oh, Heaney says more than 10 years. So, But Kyle wants it in 3 years.
All right, I'll meet you in the middle. 2025 is my prediction.
I'm going to disagree with you on that, because if you really look, I'm going to pull the coronavirus card here. if you look at like the delays and the setbacks we have from this, we don't know how long it's going to be, and then we have to repair everything and catch up. I'm going to lean more towards what Heaney said.
You don't
Because this is
think that researchers are sitting at home in quarantine right now, coming up with all sorts of many varied and unusual solutions to some of these problems?
they might be coming up with them and drafting them, but they don't have the resources at home to actually put them into testing.
We'll see. We'll see what kind of interesting unintended consequences there are.
I don't know if were you agreeing with me or Kyle? You were just
I was
like,
agreeing
waving.
with you. You win.
Okay, cool.
Heaney
You
wins.
heard it here first.
Kyle's
folks.
wrong.
Okay. All right. Well, they're always,
it's me.
on the other
I'm
side
the
of the
winner.
debate. I'm not afraid to say it. That's good stuff. Okay. Well,
actually,
yeah,
Greg's
what?
VR
Yeah.
does bring a good point that battery tech is going to be a limiting factor, and that is something that I've actually been complaining about for years. Like, we are in 2020. And I still got to charge my iPhone, like halfway through the day, right? Like Android phones still die in like 2.5 hours for something that high powered for a VR, AR wireless solution. Like, we have to come a long way with batteries first.
Gives Rebuff Reality another product to look at.
Yeah, there you go.
All right, well, that's the news for this week. The next thing that we usually do is release of the week. Now, I can tell you right now that other than playing some Rec Room paintball with my kids and Half-Life Alyx, which I still haven't finished, I'm still a little bit behind everybody, I have not played anything else. Ian, have you played anything else this week?
Table tennis is the only thing I've really gotten into. I've gotten a bunch of things downloaded, but I haven't had time. Just some table tennis with the 3D printed paddle and 11 table tennis.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to print one of those. That looks fun. And you're into table tennis, you're into ping pong, and I am as well. Yep. I feel like there's a tournament coming up. We're gonna have to do it. Oh, challenge accepted.
for the sake of the future of the VR industry.
Is that how it works? Okay.
Done. All right, fist bump.
All right. All right. Good stuff. Tatiana, have you played anything new, fun, exciting this week?
No, because Animal Crossing happened.
Oh. I'm the only one on the team that's not playing, I guess.
I'm done. I'm over it.
That's just because you're bad at Animal Crossing.
Come on,
You're bad. You're bad at Animal Crossing.
Yeah, I'm bad at it. It's sure, okay. I couldn't even get started.
So it's pretty brief.
What's the name of the stupid? What's the name of the stupid?
Tom Nook. He's a crook.
No, the neighbor that comes in that everyone makes fun of. The new island resident. I got as far as the.
I mean, there's so many different ones, so I don't.
Yeah, but it's an early one, like a first.
Well, you get different. Every person gets different starting ones.
Okay.
Like no people have the same residence. It's randomized. I've been playing Animal Crossing since the 6th grade. Like, I can school you right now. Don't look at me like that, Ian.
I'm gonna get Doom because I skipped on Doom and got Animal Crossing instead, and I think I made the wrong choice.
Gerald's playing. Gerald's cool. He also hates the bunny. I hate the bunny. That's some Silent Hill 3 stuff. It scares me. Y'all know what I'm talking about. You guys aren't cool.
Sorry, we're just not cool. I guess release of the week is very unfulfilling this week. It's
Alyx. There's Alyx. We're all empty after Alyx. Yeah.
Yeah. Need to recharge
our hole in my heart.
All right. Well, let's dig into the hot topic because this is a fun one as well. Our hot topic for this week.
I guess we should mention Down the Rabbit Hole came out. And we don't have.
The Room.
We don't have
the Room VR.
And the Room came out. Those are both huge.
David gave that some good marks.
We
actually did an interview with them at OC6. The producers were really nice. The Room guys. They're very proud of what they've achieved. I definitely want to get into that because I really like the phone games.
And Paper Beast, right? That game also came
that one
out.
Actually
and that game
looked,
is very.
Yeah, I'm gonna check that.
All those were really solid reviews on UploadVR.com.
Lies Beneath.
So check them under the reviews tab. Yes, that one too. I need to get into that one. I've been too scared after Alyx, though. I don't think my heart can handle it.
Adam said Room VR is excellent.
Good.
Yeah.
I have a kitty who's rubbing on my legs because I'm in VR.
I'm allergic.
Well, are you really?
No, I just, All right. Well, the hot topic for this week. This is fun. 1% of Steam users have a VR headset. I'm going to say that again. 1% of Steam users have a VR headset. Is PC VR growing fast enough for our Oculus Quest and PSVR taking the spotlight? Ian, are you part of the 1%? You are, aren't you?
Yeah. Heaney, can you put the little chart up on our screen so they can see the
Oh,
chart
God.
of the headsets? Yeah. So
Wait,
Heaney's going to put up
I
the
guess
chart so
while
he
he
We're
can
going
does
to cue
show.
that up. Yeah.
I'll put in
Yeah.
my 2 cents is that it all, I believe, comes down to accessibility. I have thought about this all morning. A PlayStation, you can get one for $300, right? PSVR costs, I think, brand new $250, if I believe. If you want to do PSVR or PCVR, sorry, you have to have a good PC. You have to have knowledge of how to put that together, troubleshoot it, run it, and use the equipment. And I think that right now is the biggest thing that is preventing people from getting more into PC
Yep.
VR. And I do believe that PSVR, console VR in general, if we have more, and the Quest are going to continue to lead the way because of that specifically.
Yeah. So the chart that Heaney hopefully will be adding to our screen very soon shows this incredible number that finally really explains what the VR industry is like. And the one that gets me so much is Quest usage is at like 3% on Steam already.
Mm-hmm.
That's, they only shipped the Oculus Link in, I think, the end of November, and they've been supply constrained this whole time. Obviously, it can connect with any USB 3 cord that's up to snuff, but 3% is actually more than quite a big number of headsets that are constantly in our inboxes trying to get news coverage for their
Yeah.
things.
Mm-hmm.
And 3% is already bigger than those people. So it gives you sort of an inkling of how many Quests are out there not ever connecting to a PC if they can already outperform what is it, Pimax, and it's larger than Cosmos. So Vive Cosmos and Pimax are both being outperformed, I believe, on Steam by the Oculus Quest with this wired connection. It's significant. It's a significant moment.
Were you surprised at the Pimax percentage, Ian?
No,
No? Because what
I'm
are they playing? If they have a Pimax and they're not playing Steam games, what are they playing?
exactly right. I mean, they're
Okay.
troubleshooting.
So it's, well, I mean, yeah, there's that. But what I was going for is it just because of the lower numbers in the ecosystem currently, the availability, the shipping, that sort of thing? Because I just, if you have a Pimax, I'd love to know what you play with it, because I just don't get that number. When I looked at that number, I thought, wow, I thought that number would be at least a little higher, because their number was under 1%.
Across two headsets, yeah.
Right.
I just, yeah, I mean,
A third of a percent. Okay. Huh. So I'm just
it's
curious. I'd like to know what people are playing. If you're watching and you have a Pimax, let us know what you're playing in the chat, because inquiring minds want to know. Yeah, the other thing that I thought was interesting, Ian, was the bottom of that chart. I believe it just said other, like,
yeah, and that was significant in the other, right?
it was like 2.5% or something like that, or almost 3%. What are those headsets?
So we talked to Valve a little bit about this to try and understand, and they're going to try to improve the reporting in the coming months. So hopefully we'll get some identification on what those others are, and maybe the numbers improve. In fact, the numbers had a slight change since they first announced them, and today they did some kind of updating there to change the numbers, and it was just a slight, sub 1% changes on a lot of little numbers. It's still a really significant thing, and yeah, we would like to know what those 3% is. But when you look at the top, right, it's Rift S, HTC Vive, Rift, and then you start getting to the others. You go down to Vive Pro and all these others.
Adam Hartzell said the Taco Bell headset. Because you got kicked off the Taco Bell free Wi-Fi.
You broke
Thank you.
Tatiana, Adam.
Thank you. That was good. That you win the comments this week. No, okay. So Ian, to get to get back to the list, I looked at the list of all the headsets that were listed, and then I looked at that other, and I went, what's not listed here? What's not showing up that I know exists? It almost leads me to believe that there may be headsets being tested right now using Steam.
Oh no!
What
happened?
Kyle. Is he showing frozen for everyone else?
Yeah,
I always love when we have connection issues.
The Taco Bell free Wi-Fi.
Wait, he's catching up.
Oh.
Maybe not.
Oh,
Huh?
Yep.
Oh,
wait.
I froze.
Real time?
Real time. Start over.
Okay, well,
he's confused.
I'll talk a little bit, I guess. Yeah, the other is a really good point. Could be things being tested. They've got a lot of development kits out there that they've also got, like, I don't remember seeing OSVR on the list. Maybe it's down there low.
So. Could be another.
I just think it's so significant if you look at I mean, where do we draw the line on things we should care about and report about? I guess is the thing I think about, right? Do we want to make sure we're explaining the things that matter to people? And when you get down to 1% and 2%, we're not talking about DK2 or DK1 anymore. There's a very small number of people out there who need to know whether their DK2 can work with Half-Life Alyx. Where do we draw the line on devices that we really focus on and help people understand how to use them? I don't know.
It's a good question.
I don't think I would say, maybe I'm wrong here, I don't think a dev kit is something that the consumer should know how to. I don't know. They would be interested in using, if that's the question that you're asking.
I was happy to see that DK1 still had a presence. Pun intended, by the way. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Anything else from the audience here?
Lucas asked if WMR falls into other, but it has its own.
No,
it had like 8% or something.
It had its own, and it was relatively decent up the list. So,
but Index outperformed it after after all of those low cost headsets. There's more people, and that makes sense, of course, right? You're going to use Index with Steam. That's what you're going to have to use.
And if you're like an early adapter who had a Windows mixed reality headset and you just had it was low cost, you've had it for a couple of years, and then you're like, all right, Half-Life Alyx, now's the time for me to upgrade. Like, it makes sense that Index would overtake that.
Windows MR, I struggle with this because I have multiple of their of the Windows MR headsets. I've got the Odyssey Plus, I've got the Acer, I've used the HP one, I've used the Dell one. I mean, I've used them all at one point. They're decent headsets for the price. There's absolutely no push for these headsets at all. They're just kind of chilling. Like, here, we made them. Now you do whatever you want with them. I don't understand why Microsoft isn't pushing. They've got to have stocks of them floating around right now, right? I mean, sell them. I don't understand why they're not. Microsoft isn't all in on VR, and I struggle with that knowledge. I don't know.
I said on many podcasts before, I think they're still salty about the failure of the Kinect. I still remember when Phil Spencer was like, we're going to have a Kinect in every home. Everyone's going to be using the Kinect. Psych. Not even close.
Yeah. So strange. Well, do we have anything else that we want to talk about today, Ian?
Yeah, just that chart. If you can read that article, it should still be in like top stories. It's a really important moment in the industry to kind of have that breakdown since they've changed their methodology for how they track those numbers, and now we know a better picture of what's being used on Steam. Obviously, it doesn't give us a full picture of how many Rift S's are out there, since some number of the Rift S community won't be using them on Steam. I assume a large percentage of Rift S owners would be on Steam, but it's still a significant moment to get that much stronger picture. Yeah, definitely check out that chart, that article, and the breakdown.
Cool.
Uganda be kidding me. Makes a good point. That Windows MR is exceptional for the price, have to agree. Samsung doing their refresh with the Plus was promising, and HP working with Valve and Microsoft a new refresh is promising, but that's it. And I'm going to totally agree with them. Like, that's it.
Yep. Well, I guess that's our show for the week. I'd like to encourage all of you to go and check out uploadvr.com for all the latest and greatest stuff that we've put out. We've got all sorts of great video content that you can spend some of your time watching that. Catch up on the stuff you missed. I mean, go back and watch previous weeks. Listen to the evolution of some of these stories. It's really fun to do
Ian
that.
and I have had a lot of good duo shows, a couple of them in the last month or so. I don't know. Time is a flat circle. But we had a show where it was just us, and then the one about with the devs about remote work. I think those were really good shows. Check them out. Shameless plug.
Yeah. If we're going to be shameless, go ahead and like and subscribe and join and tweet and share and all that fun stuff because, support us. Thank you. We appreciate that.
And stay safe out there.
Yeah, yes. And
wear gloves outside. Remove your gloves when you get back in the car or before you're home. Wear a mask if you can. Wash your hands. Stay clean.
I have been ending every conversation that I have had on phone and teleconferencing and not in person because we're not allowed to do that. I've been ending it with be smart, be safe. So
Brandon
thanks, everybody.
Makes a good point, though, real quick. Did Ian say pistol whip at all in this episode?
Pistol whip!
Okay, there you go. There you go, Brandon.
That sounds good. All right. Thank everybody for watching. We'll see you in the future.